Capitol Hill. Patty, let's just remind the viewers joining us right now that pro-Trump protesters breached security barricades around the U.S. Capitol and they climbed structures built for the Biden inauguration. So you witnessed all of that happening. Tell us what's going on now.
I did, and I want to tell you I'm outside because the building I was in was evacuated very quickly because of a suspicious package. There's a huge police presence here, but even given that, there was protests on the other side of the Capitol. We saw what we thought was tear gas. Couldn't really smell it, but it looked like tear gas. People tried to get the fence. We saw a bigger crowd swarm over here. I'm going to get out of the way to show you what we're seeing. They started out in the park over here to the right of me, and then they quickly started escalating towards the steps. For about 5, maybe 10 minutes time, there was a line of police that were able to keep them back, but that line fell, and you see now these people, these Trump supporters, have gone all the way to the front door of the United States Capitol. So far, it has been peaceful. We did see some tear gas was deployed, but other than we haven't seen very many mass arrests. We're not seeing a massive police presence descending on the Capitol, but looking at the scene, and I think it's important from a historical perspective. We have never before in the history of this country seen an incumbent president or even anyone, a candidate for president, not only refuse to concede the election, but say that it was stolen. His supporters believe him. This, they say, is their last stand. They're coming to the Capitol. They want to send the message, and the president said today he wants Vice President Mike Pence to send back the certified electors that have been sent to the Capitol that are going to be counted within the coming hours of today, officially making Joe Biden the president. These people are trying to send a message to people inside that they don't want that. This is pure intimidation. These huge numbers of people trying to get into the United States Capitol when what should be a routine procedure, really a remarkable scene.
And Patty, let's just remind our viewers, actually, the U.S. Senate has been put on an abrupt recess, obviously, during the debate that was taking place to certify the Electoral College results. So because of what's going on outside, the debate inside has been stopped, which perhaps is no surprise. Patty, I guess, obviously, we knew that thousands of pro-Trump supporters were going to gather around Capitol Hill today because of the debate taking place. What can you tell us about police security and how prepared they were for what potentially could happen, did happen?
Well, this is the third pro-Trump rally that D.C. has seen since the election. The last one actually was violent. 4 different people were stabbed. They expected that this would be much more tense because, as the president knows, this is his last stand. After today, there's virtually no path for him to maintain the office and stay in the White House. So there is intense security. I've covered a lot of events, a lot of White House events, a lot of inaugurations, a whole lot of State of the Union speeches. Never before seen anything like this level of security at Capitol Hill. We do know the National Guard has in fact been activated. We are seeing more and more police come. Oh, now you can see, I want to look over here. This is the other side of the Capitol. The police aren't stopping them. They're not stopping them from trying to get closer to the front door. That is likely because those doors are pretty secure. But we are starting to see more police coming in. Yep, you can see right here, Rob, you can see vans full of police officers. This is the reinforcements. I would expect that at some point they're going to start pushing them back because obviously this is an untenable situation.
But Patty, from what you can see, and I appreciate it's a little way away, can you see any clashes between police and protesters?
No, I haven't been, and yes, I am a little bit farther away because, well, you know how they feel about the media. Probably not a really good idea for me and my photographer to go and hang out inside there, but no, it doesn't look like it. It looks like just through sheer force they've been able to push the police back. But let me get out of the way because you can see those are vans and vans full of police officers, more Trump supporters going to the other side of the Capitol. That's the House side of the Capitol. And you see a fire truck has shown up because they did seem to maybe set a garbage can. I couldn't really tell on fire. They put that out. We've seen an ambulance take away one protester that didn't look like there was a fighter of any kind. And we haven't seen any violence other than the force of pushing police back from the Capitol steps. But I think it's important to just take a moment and talk about how incredibly remarkable this is in the United States of America. What should be just a pro forma session has turned into a showdown between Americans and the people who protect the United States Capitol.
Patty Culhane with the latest there outside Capitol Hill. Patty, stay safe, and we'll cross live to you again in the coming hours. Now let's go to Shihab Ratansi, who joins us live at the White House. Shihab, I'm sure you've sort of seen some of the pictures and heard reports. It's pretty shocking images, really. What do you make of what's happening right now in Congress?
I think I'm able to get some of the more official responses, actually. We understand now that the Capitol is under official lockdown. The proceedings that were going on, that we were showing, have now been put into recess because of the danger of the protesters breaching the barricades and approaching the Capitol. You know, this is a particularly interesting thing that just crossed, that I just saw. Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., has just tweeted, "This is wrong and not who we are. Be peaceful and use your First Amendment rights, but don't start acting like the other side. We have a country to save, and this doesn't help anyone." To put that tweet into context, I have to say what we've been watching here all morning is Donald Trump outside the White House at the Ellipse urging his followers to go and demonstrate at Capitol Hill, which is fine, that is their First Amendment rights. But it was interesting because Donald Trump did suggest several times that he would join them there and watch the proceedings. He did not do that. He's actually currently in the White House, we understand, which was interesting. But clearly a speech about betrayal that Donald Trump gave, in which he went through rather laboriously all of what he said were all the electoral flaws in the presidential election and indeed the Georgia Senate runoff, and he went through a list of the people whose career he felt that he had built up in the political scene and the judicial scene in Washington, D.C., and how they've betrayed him. He talked of Mike Pence a great deal, that it was up to Mike Pence now to effectively save democracy. Just before proceedings began, though, Mike Pence released a statement that he sent to the rest of Congress saying he would not, in his opinion, he would not break the Constitution by, he said basically, look, he does not believe the Founding Fathers intended for the Vice President to have unilateral control over the elections of America, which, when you think about it, makes sense, because then the Vice President could nullify electoral votes all of the time. Then we had a succession of speeches, though, in the House and the Senate, notably Mitch McConnell, who talked of how shocked he was that America was descending into tribalism and hatred. We cannot keep drifting apart into two separate tribes with two separate realities and nothing in common except hostility for each other. Clearly that's also a bit like the Donald Trump Jr. tweet getting a certain amount of attention, given that Mitch McConnell has aided and abetted that period of division. There's no doubt about that. It is interesting, though, that he's now making this call for bipartisanship and the brotherhood of man, just as it seems he's about to become the Senate minority leader, and no longer the Senate majority leader after the Georgia Senate runoff. But there are all these rather interesting bubbling elements here politically away from Capitol Hill, just in the tweets and in the statements from people, and many of those who have been very much part of the movement that is manifesting itself outside the Capitol right now, who are now expressing their shock at what is actually happening. I was just thinking, it reminded me of that line from Casablanca when Inspector Renault said, "Oh, gambling? I'm shocked that there's gambling occurring in here." And you're getting that sense from some of the Republican voices now who are speaking out against I think what you can say, a kind of mob who's broken through the barriers. They're expressing a complete shock that it's come to this. I think also, I have to say, Paddy was talking about the police presence. We have covered a lot of protests here in D.C. I guess here at the White House, for once, we're in a position where we're probably in the safest place. The Trump supporters aren't likely to storm the barricades here. But in the past, we've seen an enormous police presence, and we know the National Guard have been called up. And you do wonder where they all are, because certainly when we were covering all the Black Lives Matter protests, just over there, for example, you would see masses. And it's not as if the Trump supporters made any secret about what they were planning to do today, and yet there has been a very light presence, especially in comparison to the Black Lives Matter protests that we covered exhaustively in the summer. So there are also those questions, too, about how exactly I mean, what sort of planning was involved in what was clearly a